Alright class, this video is going to be aimed at taking a look at opening the abdominal cavity as well as identifying some gross anatomy that we're going to find within. I will get into more detail on the specifics of some of these as we in subsequent videos and provide a little more depth. But for now, let's just get inside. This is for some students a more difficult procedure, not necessarily from the actual dissection, but actually getting into the abdominal contents. It can be somewhat disturbing. So hopefully this video helps you to know what you got coming and what you're going to come across when we get through there. So what you're going to do is you're going to find the linea alba. It runs right down the middle. And if you remember from an earlier video, you saw that my skinning video, you saw that I actually got a little deep. So I'm going to find that spot, which is right there. And I'm just going to take my scalpel and lift lightly along the linea alba. All right. The other thing you can do, if you so choose, is you can use the scissors. They're also going to be a good resource for you. I'm going to stick with a scalpel because I'd have to cut down, which would require me to use my left hand. And being right-handed, it would make it a little awkward. So I'm just going to continue to follow this down to the lower abdominal area. Now, when we get up to the top, you may have to sort of stick a finger in to see where the diaphragm is, because we don't want to lose a lot of this pectoral musculature. So once we make that incision, we'll come down to the bottom, and I'll make another one that comes right along the side, fairly low, and I'll do the same thing on this side as well. Now, as we get in here, you're going to notice that right on top of the abdominal contents, you have a membrane. And this membrane is called the greater omentum. Now, when we look into this, I'll make another incision along the top. Once we get into this, this is an area where some of these blood vessels can rupture. And you may actually see that in rupturing them, they do leak into the abdominal area. So you may see it's a brownish colored material. It's actually coagulated blood. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this back now. All right, you could probably go up a little bit higher, but I like to keep the diaphragm intact for later discussion and dissection. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and cut along the other side as well. And from here you can see obviously our abdominal contents. And you can also see in this view the transverse abdominis. It actually runs right across, straight across. Okay. So, as I mentioned, we do have some coagulated blood here, not uncommon, but it's also integrated with this membrane. And this membrane is going to attach to a variety of organs. I'm not going to mention them because there's a lab that you'll have to do that looks at what they attach to. So as you're taking this off, as you're looking at it, make sure that you are looking at what it attaches to for later reference. Okay, it's a thin membranous material. This one is actually covered quite a bit of blood, but if we were to wipe that away, you can see it's fairly thin and somewhat transparent. You can see through it. But it's also intertwined with a lot of fat deposits. So this is the greater omentum, and it is there to help support abdominal contents as well as fat storage. So what I'm going to do for our purposes, we're going to go ahead and remove it. So anywhere that I'm just lifting it up, and anywhere that it's attached, I'm just going to sort of cut it away. We can discard it, get rid of it after you've made some observation. So I will go ahead and see if I can get this out as intact as possible so that we can see the rest of the abdominal contents. So again, make sure you're looking at what it's attaching to, because once it's out, once it's gone, we can't really see what it was attached to. Okay, so I have most of it out of the way. We can leave some of it. Doesn't have to be completely removed, but we do need to be able to find our abdominal contents. So you can see as we hold it out here, it's actually just a very thin membrane with a lot of fat intertwined. Okay, so once you've taken a look, we can remove that and set it off to the side, discard it later. So now that we get that out of the way, you'll see there is some blood left. We can clean that out as we go through it. So we'll find a couple of different structures here. So we have both the digestive tract and some accessory organs, and I will look at each of those at a later point. So the digestive tract, which we're mostly familiar with, has the stomach. That is this. And in this particular cat, it's a fairly large structure. It looks somewhat distended and feels as though it is somewhat full. All right, and we can get into dissecting that later. Once we could follow that, we'll see that the other parts here, you have the small intestine, which is mostly right on top. In order to find the large intestine, we're just going to move this out of the way, and you can find it as it travels deeper in the abdominal cavity on each side. So you have to pretty much get that small intestine out of the way. All right, and then it progresses on down toward the rectum and anus. All right, so that is a very brief general view of the digestive tract. Some of your accessory organs you'll see here. If we lift this up a little bit, you'll see the variety of lobes of liver here. This one does not appear to have a great, at least from this view, a great gallbladder. I will try and find a good example of it for when I do the accessory organs, so that I can identify it. But it sits up in between the lobes of the liver. All right. Off to the side, we have this sits right along the side of the stomach. Kind of looks like a tongue. This one is sort of brownish in color. Sometimes they're a little more reddish or purplish. So the spleen runs along the side of the stomach, fairly easily identified. Then, let's see if I can find it in here. Running along the small intestine, yes. So right in, if I can get a good view on the camera there, so the small intestine is this structure right here. We can move this out of the way a little bit. So this structure here is the first part of the small intestine, and right beside it we have the pancreas. And the pancreas is C-shaped. It follows along that intestine, and it kind of looks, it varies in color from one to the other. This one's sort of pinkish. Most of them are a kind of yellowish color, and it's somewhat hard to identify because it is encased within a membrane. And it does look like, kind of looks like fat tissue or something else, but it is a spongy material or spongy looking tissue that runs right along this first part of the small intestine. If you're having trouble finding it, feel free to visit other specimens and take a look, but it does run along the inside there of the small intestine. So once again, we have our abdominal contents. Make your incision down the middle and then down each side, so that way you can open it up very easily and gain good access to your abdominal contents. I will go through more detail on this, on the specifics, as we get into other videos.